Pokémon Legends ZA, the newest game in the mainline Pokémon series, is finally here. I have been bunkering down a fair bit and throwing myself into this title, and I'm compiling a lot of thoughts right now. A lot of very varied thoughts, which will steadily trickle out as time goes on. I want to give people ample time to play this game before I talk about major spoilery stuff. As of recording, the game has only been out a few days, and not everyone has set aside a whole week to play it like I have. I just want to chat about the early game in this video. My first impressions after playing the first little chunk of content this game throws at us. The first 3 or 4 hours. That's the safest thing to start off with. So let's settle in and have a little introductory ramble for this new game. The early game is pretty important in any video game, because it's the thing that either fully straps you in for the ride, or pushes you away with a sour taste in your mouth. And Pokemon is a funny one, where no matter what really, the early game is riddled with necessary tutorials. Every Pokemon game is someone's first Pokemon game, so they have to ease people in, make it as non-threatening as possible, even though, granted, Pokemon is not that complicated. But once again, I'm seeing a lot of people leaving negative reviews because of the aggressive handholding in Legends ZA. I feel like that happens every game nowadays. I think it has been exacerbated by the fact that we're in a single city here, and pretty much the whole thing is open to us from the off. So naturally, we all want to have a good run around and check things out. And it takes a little while for the game to let us do that. It was something I noticed as well. We of course open into the game with our character arriving in Lumiose City. We pick our starter Pokemon. I went with Totodile because he's just a goofy little Johto guy and I love him. Then we are run through some other intros and tutorials, like checking into our base of operations at Hotel Z, learning how to catch Pokemon, how to smash rocks. It really is one after the other after the other. And like I said, nothing too new for Pokemon. In fact, Legends Arceus kinda did the exact same thing now that I think about it. The difference there though is that we unlocked areas piece by piece in that game. This one is pretty much fully open to us from the very start. There's a lot we were itching to explore, and we knew that we could explore as soon as the game lets us off the leash. So I'll admit, I did feel the frustration at the start here too. I just wanted to be let loose in the city. There were probably a couple of points where I could have gotten away with making a diversion, but even if you can, you're still not properly bedded into the game until all of that early tutorial stuff is done and out of the way. It nags at you until it's over, so it's best to just push through it and get it done. My first impressions of Pokémon Legends ZA are that, for starters, it runs a lot better than I think any other Pokémon game I've ever played. I am playing the game on the Nintendo Switch 2, so I can't speak for the regular Nintendo Switch system. Maybe you guys can fill me in on that in the comments if you're playing it on the Switch 1. But it's a smooth experience playing this game. No lags, no stutters, no crashes or anything like that, which is the bare minimum to be fair. I shouldn't even have to be mentioning that as a plus point, and hopefully I'll never have to again. Now, whether different kinds of corners have been cut to achieve that, I don't know. I'm mainly thinking here about the buildings. Instead of 3D models, we have 2D textures. If you want to be really brutal, you could call them flat walls with JPEGs slapped on top. And this probably does save on some rendering resources within the game. It might be how they've gotten this engine to run so smoothly here, because this very much seems like Scarlet and Violet's game engine with a few tweaks. It's been a hot topic. A lot of attention has been given to these flat textures. I have a video coming out on the map, but to sum up my take on it, it is disappointing. I think Pokemon has gotten buildings right on more than a few occasions, and so it's sad to see it take a step backwards in that sense. But also, on the flip side of that, I very rarely actually noticed as I've been playing through the game so far. I think there's enough other things to look at and pay attention to that the big buildings in the background just aren't something I'm staring at all that much. I'm genuinely not trying to defend the buildings here though, because the moments where my eye is drawn to them, it is at least a little bit immersion breaking, because there are detailed assets around them, in the same shot, the same eye line. So it's this weird juxtaposition that hurts your head a little bit. That's kind of all I want to briefly say on that point for now. I'm sure my thoughts on it will develop more as time goes on. But yeah, the early game of Legends ZA is a slow burn for sure. But at the same time, a lot of stuff is thrown at us. We're meeting a lot of characters and being introduced to a bunch of different stuff we'll be doing along our big adventure in this one singular city. I'll admit, my brain was a bit fried and I was glad to go to bed after my first session of this game. One of my main, not complaints, but irks about the run of trailers we got for Legends ZA is that I didn't really know what we were going to be doing in this game, aside from catching Pokemon and battling other Pokemon. That part's a given in any Pokemon game. My main question throughout the whole hype cycle was, what is the story here? Every trailer seemed like it was introducing a new type of quest, another new group or organization. I'm not asking for the game to be spoiled, obviously. I just kind of wanted to know the general synopsis of what our character is here for. And it's not really made clear in the early game of Legends CA either. Our character is just sort of here, as a tourist as well, and then gets roped into a bunch of different stuff. Will it all become clear as time goes on? We will see. Like many other people, I am hyped for character customization coming back to Pokemon. We've endured 3 long years of being stuck in some variation of the same school uniform. I think we're all desperate to show a bit of personality again. I immediately did that by changing my character into all plain, all dark colours. Pinpoint realism from me there. A good 90% of my wardrobe in real life is this, essentially. I experimented a bit more with the hair though. That's where I decided to be a bit bolder apparently. I haven't spent a long time thinking about this right now. Clothing options is actually something I tend to come back to and mess around with a lot more after I finish the main story, weirdly enough. So maybe I'll mix things up a bit more later down the line. I've seen a lot of social media posts with people showing off their fits though, and every single one has been so different, which is really cool to see. I hope it isn't confined to this game. We need this to remain a thing for Gen 10, definitely. And yeah, where I am at this point is just wondering where all this could go. Like I said, we don't get much indication for the grander narrative we're building towards, but maybe that's part of the experience. Maybe it hits us like a truck later on and all suddenly makes sense. Comparing it to Pokémon Legends Arceus, one thought I found kept coming back to me throughout these early stages here was how that game had such a bold aesthetic and general feel to it. Legends ZA doesn't really feel like it has that. Maybe it's because it's set in more modern day, I'm not sure. But it's just more of a generic, poppy polish we see to this game's graphics. I don't want to go as far as to say soulless, because I think that'd be a bit harsh. In fact, if you put it next to Scarlet and Violet, it does feel like things are more saturated again, which I do think looks better for Pokemon. I hope I'm making some sense, but yeah, it just feels a bit more generic aesthetically. As good as I genuinely do think it looks if you point the camera at the right things. I'm trying to be as general as possible with this video because I've got some more coming up on more specific things like the map and the battle system and a couple of other things as well. But to sum things up for now, I'm intrigued by the game. I'm not on the edge of my seat though. Things feel a little slow at the moment. That said, these are only my thoughts after the first few hours of the game. Be sure to look out for more videos as I get further into the experience. For now, why don't you guys let me know how you feel about the game? Because I would be really keen to hear how this game has pulled other people in, if it has pulled you in. Because as I said, it's felt like a bit of a crawl so far for me. I've actually had to have a movie playing on my second screen just to keep my brain firing throughout these first few hours. That doesn't sound like it bodes too well, but I want to be honest about it. Not that I'm TikTok brained or anything. It's likely just because I'm a returning player, so those early hand-holdy segments are kind of mind-numbing for me. And I've long said that I strongly predict that this game is going to be a bit of a layover game for me while we wait for Generation 10. I've been swaying from side to side with my level of excitement and interest in it. It could be a lack of voice acting actually. I've been playing games with voice acting a lot recently. But it is something Pokemon to tide me over until we get to Gen 10. And that's better than nothing. We'll see how I feel after the credits have rolled. These are very rough early thoughts. Maybe it'll end up blowing me away. Let's wait and find out. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please do drop a quick like on the video before you go, that's a huge help. Join the Discord if you want to talk about the game more over there. Take it easy guys, I'll catch you in the next one.